Arif clutched the steering wheel, his knuckles white against the dark wood. Beside him, his little sister Nyla stared straight ahead, her eyes unfocused. The silence in the car was thick, broken only by the rhythmic slap of tires on the pavement. "You didn't have to do that, you know?" Nyla finally said, her voice barely a whisper. Arif shot her a quick glance. "Do what?" "Take me here," she said, nodding toward the house they had just pulled away from. "I could have walked." "It's too dangerous," Arif said, his voice tight. "Not safe to walk around these parts, especially not at night." Nyla fell silent again, her gaze returning to the road ahead. Her usual bright eyes were clouded, her face pale and drawn. It had been like this ever since they had come back from the lake 2 days ago. That night, Nyla had gone missing for 2 hours. She had slipped out of the house while their parents were out celebrating their anniversary, just like she always did. But when she came back, she was soaked, silent and smiling. That smile had sent shivers down Arif's spine because he knew that smile. It was the same eerie smile that haunted his nightmares. When he had found her, she'd been standing by the lake, her eyes fixed on the rippling water. At first, he had been angry, his protective instincts kicking into overdrive. But then he had noticed her eyes. They were filled with a strange, unsettling calm. It was as if something had replaced his sister, something alien and cold. Mila had seemed oblivious to his questioning, to his touch, even to the frantic beating of his heart. She had looked at him with vacant eyes and said, "I was just looking at the lake." And then she had gone back to staring at the water, a serene smile gracing her lips. Arif had spent a restless night watching over her, his eyes never leaving his sister's face. Strange things had begun happening that night. She had stopped blinking. She had stared at the walls for hours, her smile never fading. She had whispered to herself in a language Arif didn't recognize. Then he noticed something truly terrifying. Her reflection didn't match her movements. When she smiled, the reflection frowned. When she turned her head, the reflection stayed still. As if possessed by an evil spirit, Nyla continued to stare blankly ahead while her reflection mimicked his movements in the mirror. A sense of dread washed over him. Could the lake really do that? Could it show you your soul, or worse, could it steal it? He had heard the rumors, of course, the stories people whispered about the lake. They said it was cursed, that it was a mirror that showed who you really were. Some even said that if you stared into it for too long, it would stare back. But he had always dismissed those stories as superstitious nonsense. Until now. He cautiously approached the mirror, his eyes fixed on Nyla's reflection. Slowly, she turned her head to meet his gaze. Her eyes, though, they were still in black, like the depths of the lake on a moonless night. He stumbled back, dropping the mirror. The shards hit the floor, their sharp edges glinting in the dim light. Nyla finally broke eye contact, her gaze flickering toward the broken mirror. "The lake," she whispered, her voice hollow and distant. "It wants to speak to me." Arif felt a surge of protectiveness, of anger. He wanted to shake her, to make her understand that there was something wrong, terribly wrong. But as he looked into her vacant eyes, he knew it was no use. Whatever had taken hold of Nyla was too strong for her, too powerful. The next morning, Nyla was gone. Her bed was empty, her blanket askew. On the pillow lay a single perfect white feather. And then he saw it, her wet clothes on the floor, the one she'd worn the night before. Her favorite blue sweater, the one with the tiny holes from where the moths had feasted, was now pristine, as if it had been washed. Arif's heart pounded against his ribs as he raced toward the lake. He could hear Nyla's laughter echoing in his ears, the sound warped and distorted like a nightmare. When he arrived, his worst fears were confirmed. There she was, standing in the water, waist deep, staring at her reflection. She turned, and for a moment, their eyes met. But there was no recognition in her gaze, only a cold, unsettling calm. In that instant, Arif knew that his sister was gone. She'd become the very thing he had feared, a vessel emptied of its soul. With a choked sob, he called out to her, "Nyla, come back." His voice cracked with despair. Slowly, Nyla turned back to the lake, her smile never fading. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice echoing with an unearthly stillness. "But I must go now. The lake needs me." And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows on the water, Arif watched his sister disappear into the depths of the lake, her laughter mingling with the mournful cry of a distant owl.